Guess I'll start over again. Sorry about that. And this whole thing, really. Pink Cloud 59. Yet again. What I can't remember is what I can remember. It is, though, sadly. It is the great forces in the world that can have a good and bad effect in the world without being all one or the other. Accepting the bad and good. This comes at a price, though, of constructing the bad and being God at who can live and who cannot. And when I was thinking about that, I think about how people kind of act like, well, God hates fags or God hates something else. I mean, you could basically generalize everything and say God hates. But the thing is, if He truly does, creating those things doesn't really change them. Especially creating them in massive amounts. You don't really create something in massive amounts if you hate it. You don't, And I think that's the thing that I'm starting to notice between people and between what people give themselves and what people give other people. We live in a very vulgarness that is like one hit miss. One hit or a miss. And I think that's what makes it easy for a lot of people to use the means of, like, that's, you can live, you can't live. You can live, you cannot live, And that's the very old, the mind of psychopaths right there. I think that's a psychopath. If somebody who's saying that they're God, that they're perfect, that they're this, that, the other, the oneness of having everything. Except the thing is, you can't have everything. And I think that's what really helps people with pride and ego. Oh my God, they have it to a huge level. Their hilt is done in, You don't need anything else. That's the great force that's using as the barrier. That's the thing that's going to be what's intrinsically valued. Is like, going back to religion, all you need to say is one step Q. Everybody believes it. Because at least you'll live. That's what we should be, we should have a privilege to be able to live at all. I don't want just privileges for living, I want my rights. If not, I'd rather be a caveman. And that's the thing that I'm noticing between people, that everyone says, it's a privilege. It's a privilege, that's it? Then I'd rather be a caveman. I don't want to just have privileges, I'm sorry. I'm not going to rebel or comply with that. But I think it's the stupidest thing for you to just trust that. Somebody who's giving you privileges, some kind of massive idea that's giving you privileges only in life. Where's the value in you? How do you know you're valued? If the one value is that, all these people are hurting us, well, the thing is, when people hurt you, usually it's you that's hurting people the most. Because you're going to be very insecure, and your actions are always going to be provoking against other people that aren't hurting anybody at all. Ideas are the worst weapons right there. But they're going to be weapons no matter what. Sorry, I have my ideas, When I think of the Matrix trilogy, for example, the Matrix itself being in the place where Neo was and everything, that is the fight for ideas right there. That is the fight for ideas. Our everyday lives is the fight for ideas. You're not going to avoid it. I mean, you can. The easiest way to avoid it is groupthink. Groupthink, peer pressure. There you go. That's all you need. You don't need anything else. Just have the groupthink and you're good. You don't need any other steps to do on your own, because you wouldn't need those steps on your own. You'll always have those great forces that will be like God. Somehow God can't do it Himself, so He does it through people that are actually worse off. That's why I think religion can be a creation in general. For people to say that they're better, that they have the wisdom because they came from God, and they listen to the prophecies and the existence of such a thing in written form. Yes, because those were written by humans, so they must be correctly justifying what God is. No, it doesn't. That's human conditioning with an inch full of instincts and animal instincts, writing down how to get the power grab, not how his infliction on us has determined our lives. Because it hasn't. Determination, willpower, all that stuff can be willed to anybody else. It's the old, I guess you could bring up the old cartography of the last 100 years or more, where you have people like Aleister Crowley, who spoke about do what thou wilt. But in that effect, if we're looking back in the history of the recent years, we're seeing the difference, though. That even if people do hurt people through their will, they're not really hurting them. And I think that's a lot. People justify their actions based on, well, that person allowed me to take control of him. You can't really say that completely, because if there's cognitive dissonance, meaning that you're basically teaching people to be controlled, you can't really say they're willingly letting you. You've willingly put those things in front of them that they have no choice in. Growing up with, force, where you have women working in the workforce now, where they were taking care of their kids when they were at home. I'm not saying that's the way it should be, but I am saying that now the teaching tool is the cognitive dissonance, the growing up with television. These kind of attitudes and personalities and characters are through that means, which is the same reason what I talked about a while ago in one of the Pink Clouds about, the King of Queens, I Love Lucy. All these men characters that are shown as such do not reflect me. I don't see any connection between me and them. And I think that's a lot of times our identity. We have to identify with something, so we're going to identify with the majority, even if we don't agree to it. Even if we're represented by it by 2%, by 1%, by 0.00001%. If there's only one little thing that can connect you to it, that's enough. And I think that's what really cancels me out of the equation of doing that. There's great forces at work here. They're constructing the bad and being God about it. This is the construction of bad. We're going to separate it from us, and we're going to say, well, cannot. But the thing is, you can only justify that so much. You can only create the way a person can identify so much. But I think at a certain point, people start realizing that, hey, you're not doing your job. You're just lacing out opinions constantly. You're just giving us entertainment constantly, buzzworthy things. And if you don't do your job, what are you going to get? Nothing. And eventually, you can blame the people. You can say, oh, you guys are idiots for believing that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, they're not doing it because they want to turn to that stuff. It's that you're not doing your job and they are. Everything's propaganda at this point. Everything could be viewed as propaganda. Everyone's a mongerer. Everyone who's in this field is going to be a mongerer. Either a fear monger or non-fear monger, whatever you want to call it. But we're living in that. So to put one to justly state that this one's better than the other, it's not going to happen. There's never a true truce between that. There's an identity to say that that's wrong, but literally it's a choice. To have fear at all. To have hope at all, to have humiliation, to have these expressions of total declaration that this bothers you is a choice. To be scared, to be afraid, that is an honest thing. You just enjoy it. If you lose, you enjoy the loss. You don't go, what a loss, and then tear everybody down in your entire lifetime because you lost. You lost. That's it. There's nothing else that you can do about it. And there's nothing you should want to do about it because it's your life, not anybody else's. And I think that's the thing that's really creating people's epitome to say what can and cannot be. Because they don't want to lose anymore. Because they don't want to experience the same thing anymore. So they keep on being the same thing. Or they allow themselves to be something else because, hey, I won't experience the same thing anymore because I'm not being myself anymore. I'm listening to everybody else in this majority character of such, and I'm getting a lot out of it. Congratulations, I see how much you're getting out of it. But you do understand that you're not going to win right away because of your character. No matter how much people have smeared it to your lifetime, as the American dream has. Sorry. I'm not saying it's the only one. There's a lot of spheres in reality, besides our own in this continent, on this earth, that has declared us as such. Yeah, right. I've seen the declaration of our rights, and it has nothing to do with how we're being treated right now. But a lot of people given up their rights. They haven't even tested their rights before they give them up. They never even test them before they give them up. They just feel unsafe, and so they want somebody else to make them feel secure. And they've got that. Congratulations. But have you ever tried to protect yourself? Nope. No answer there. And the abuse continues, ladies and gentlemen. It does. And I think that's the thing that really scares people, is that they allow themselves to literally hurt their lives because they don't want anybody else to hurt them for them. They'd rather hurt themselves. They'd rather cut themselves, kill themselves, whatever, before somebody else could do a single thing to them. I'm not gonna let someone else take advantage of me. Well, that's the best way somebody takes advantage of you, is by you hurting yourself. Somebody else just did. You hurting yourself is not hurting yourself. You're actually getting hurt by somebody else. You're allowing somebody else to let you hurt yourself. You're allowing something else, whatever it is, hurt yourself, you know. To me, the Roman Empire is the same story. The people killed themselves. And I think that's what really scares people, is that they're befuddled to believe that kind of stuff. Like, yeah, right, no, we didn't do that to ourselves. Yeah, we did. Why? Beats me. I wouldn't. But I could understand why people had that kind of mentality. They want to be like God. You know, at least someone else is being like God, and they know they could experience the same thing if they listen to that person. If they listen to those people in power. If they listen to those people around the world that have that kind of criticization of everybody, and say, this is right, this is what you can't do, this is what you cannot do. This is what you can do, this is what you cannot do. At least there's a reflection of some kind of power, even if it's not yours. And under our toes mentality, you know, makes up for ignorance, being bliss, you know. Easy way to get out of it, and everything is to believe you get something out of treating people badly with no humanity. You know, at least you get something out of it, you know. And I think that's the way of, like, you know, an easy way out. When I think about what happened a few years ago with a group of friends back at Long Beach City College, it was that ignorance is bliss kind of attitude, but at the same time it was almost like, if it doesn't work in my parameters, then it's not going to work at all. And I'm not saying for myself. I'm saying more for, you don't need permission to do something. Just do it. You know, if you feel a certain way, you're not going to change that. And I think that's the thing that I've noticed between a lot of people, that they, if somebody else doesn't take the opportunity, they put them down for it. You know, and that's the one thing that I've noticed. If I'm a loser, I'm a loser. You can't change that. You know, but if you want me to be a winner, you wouldn't help me by saying I'm a loser. You wouldn't do it by doing that. If you truly cared about me as a person, you would see why I didn't do something. And you would say, you know what, this guy truly, and it's not about reading people's minds. It isn't. And I think that's the dumbest thing, and that's where a lot of people get their ideas of what, like, you know, how people think. But not everybody wants people under their toes. I don't need that kind of mentality, and I don't even have that mentality. And I think that's the one thing that a lot of people aren't used to. So they think, well, I can't read your mind. I don't know what you're thinking. That means that means you have thought about what I was thinking, and you got it wrong. You got it completely wrong, and you're telling me now because you don't want to take responsibility for what you really thought about me, or yourself, or anybody else that you know. You don't want to take responsibility for how you thought about them, and now that you truly see what kind of person they are, you don't want to face it. But no one's telling you to face it. They're just telling you to not take advantage of it, to not try to assume what kind of person you're around. You know, if you do that, what's the point? Well, why be around that person if what you're going to do in your free time is assume what they are? As such, with my ex, for example, which is what happened recently, last year or so, a little more than last year probably, but in last year, it was, last May, Grandma said some things that were about them, were about her, and I don't feel that way. And I think that's the main issue, is that if I personally don't feel that way, it's not enough. It's, you know, everyone else can't feel that way either. Oh, I'm sorry everybody doesn't like you, you know. Hey, you know, I'm sorry I like you more than this person does, than my grandma does, than my brother, than my dog. You know, at a certain point, it's like hearing a dog bark at you. It's like, that dog is going to bark anyway. You're telling me that it bothers you the dog barks? You know, that's what it sounds like. It sounds like frustration with something that is uncontrollable to that. Because not everybody's going to be liked between each other, and that's fine. That's not an issue. Except if it's an issue with you, then obviously it's always going to be an issue with you. As with me, it doesn't matter. You do whatever you want. I don't really argue with people. The only time I really argue, honestly, is to just figure out an answer, to see exactly what they have to say. I want to hear it. I want to hear them say it. As with my grandma, I hear her say it, and that's it. That's all I need to know. Okay, Amina, you showed it. You showed what kind of person you are right there. How you think about that person, and how you probably thought about that person from day one. Don't lie to your kids. That's all I need to tell you, people out there. Don't lie to your kids when you're around somebody else. Don't try to be satisfactory, happy with it. No. Say what you feel. Say it around anybody. Especially the person that you don't like. Especially a person that you're hiding what you think about them. Just do it. Say it. Say it all. Because once you say it all, there is no flaw. Everybody knows, And I think that's the thing that I'm starting to notice is becoming a justification for hiding how you express yourself. Is that, well, I don't want to hurt the other person's feelings. I don't want to hurt my family's feelings. I don't want to hurt somebody right there that I know I'm close to by saying something bad about the person that they know. No, say it. You're hurting them more by hiding it. You hurt me more by hiding it. Just say how you feel. Motherfucker, you cannot hide it. I can see it in your face. And I think that's what really we're getting at, Under our toes mentality, make up for ignorance being bliss, Even though you know everything about reality, by having everything under your toes, wanting that kind of state of mind, you make up for it with ignorance being bliss for you. You're ignorant to even how you treat people. There you go. And I think that's the way where people ignore what you're saying. Right now, this pink cloud will probably be ignored. Great. I hope it does. I hope you ignore it. Because it's all you can do. Not deal with things directly. How do you expect to grow as a species? As animals at all? How do you expect to grow a better society by ignoring this? By ignoring yourselves? You expect to find something better? To find a better condition for the human race? By ignoring everything? Oh, guys, you've given up your freedoms then. You've given up your rights from being a caveman where you had those freedoms and you created probably more things during that lifetime than you ever could now. Because now the only people who are free are the people that you allow to be. That you say, well, at least they represent me, even though they don't at all. They represent me just enough to make me feel like there are people who get their way. And I think that's what counts to people, is at least somebody's getting their way. I may not be, and then that kind of crowdy sort of, crying that's maniacal and just wants to get their way, shut the fuck up. Please. If you want your way, if that's all you want. I love being wrong. You know why? Because if I'm wrong, that makes everything better. But if I'm right, then that makes everything worse. So I would like it if I was wrong. What do you think? Do you think I'm interested in these conspiracies in the way that all these things lead to bad endings? The tide has already come in. In all hope, in all wishes, I wish I'm wrong. Because it doesn't come from Alex Jones or any of these people that have been speaking about conspiracies for the lifetime of mine. People before that did that. People before that. People before America was founded did that sort of stuff, talked about that sort of stuff. It wasn't just in our lifetimes that this has happened. In our generations, in our Americanizations. That's the scary thing, is that I wish that this wasn't true. I wish I could stand here in front of these stuffed animals and just say, guys, we'll be safe. But I don't know that. I'm not paranoid about it. I could care less. My life doesn't matter. Unless your life matters for you. Out there listening. Does your life matter to you? If it don't, no, then why do it? Why fight me? Why be upset with me thinking differently? Or yourself thinking differently from me? Why does that matter? Unless your life matters to you. If it don't, why talk? Why spend an ounce of strength getting out of bed every day? Why do anything? You have no reason to do anything, honestly. That's reason and logic right there. If you don't care about anything, reason and logic should tell you I shouldn't do anything at all. But most people's reason and logic lead to under our toes mentality, to hurt other people, to take the easy way out, to treat people badly with no humanity. that's what most people do because, at least we have it better than them. Or, another favorite of mine, as long as I could do more damage. Seems to be the attitude. And within that, we're finding exactly what stakes matter. What would you give up for living your life? Would you give up your humanity for it? Well, check out the list for most humans right there. They would, Would an animal? No. When people say dog eat dog, dogs don't even eat dogs. I'm sorry, it's not dog eat dog world. If it was a dog eat dog world, when somebody lost a fight, they would actually, expose their neck and let the dog eat them. Say, you won the fight. We don't even do that. Sorry. We create wars, we don't personally benefit from them. We lose our families, we lose members of human race right there. And within that, and we cry over people because of where they came from. Our bleeding hearts are so hypocritical. If a dog is crying for another dog, it doesn't matter where it was from. It matters the connection. That doesn't count for us, though, as humans. They have to be here. We don't have to be anywhere. I don't feel like I'm anywhere. I feel like I'm just dead. I'm dead in I'm dead in a sea of people who are awake, but choose to be ignorant to it. And choose to say we can't change anything. Well, with how many people that said they can't change anything, we would have had change already. Change would have came a long time ago. You can't change things. Yeah, you can. You just chose not to. Your choice shows that you don't want to do anything. Money bags of hags, treating children as instruments to get things of money. Dependence of Social Security, if they turn popular movie star, any sort of chucking the change for who you've brought up. Some people do this, the money bags of hags. Some people do that. They treat their offspring, their children, whatever, like objects. They don't, sadly, a lot of people who have kids don't treat their kids like anybody else, sadly. And you don't get anything out of that, And I think that's why when people pay rent when they still live at home, stuff like that, it doesn't show a good instrument of connection. It actually shows a bad connection between the family members. That, well, you gotta pay rent if you're gonna live here. Really? Why wasn't I paying rent before? Well, because you were underage. I get it. So, if you're gonna act like the government, when you come down to it to that effect, then what's the point? And I think that's the thing that I'm noticing between what's happening with our lives in general, that people's independence value, what people see as independence and dependence, is paying by yourself and somebody else paying for you. But the fact of the matter is, we're dependent by paying for things. So technically, either way, you're dependent. But that's a matter of you. If you honestly feel that you're independent, even if you're not dependent, even if you're not independent, that's your viewpoint. But literally, you can't take away that, justly speaking, you're paying somebody else to do things for you. No matter what position you're in, that's what you're doing. It's the money bags of hags story, That's dependence of Social Security when you come down to it, stuff like that. And there is some validation in what people say about, that people take advantage of the system, but the fact is, it's because they took advantage a long time ago. They took advantage of their kids by that time, It's not even about them taking advantage of the system, it's that they took advantage of their own kids. That's what people don't look at. They always look at the money. But the fact is, it's deeper than that. It's that they took advantage of their own children like that. All they see is dollar bills in their kids. They don't see them as what they should see them as. Their blood, their family, their love that they should be giving them, instead of an excuse to take money. I mean, that's the real dirty business, but that has nothing to do. All these systems can be here. Social Security, anything you want. Anything could be added. But until how people think is going to be different, you can't just take them away and expect people to just go, yeah, now I accept that I gotta love my kids. No, they have to do that on their own. And it's the same thing with people being humanitarian towards other humans. Same thing with what I just said about under our toes mentality. It's the same attitude. If you're going to accept that people are, there's an easy way out of everything, then you would always take advantage and opportunity to push everybody down. Me, on the other hand, I can't do that. I don't know what to do exactly. Sometimes I mess up. A lot of times I have messed up, in fact. But I went back to apologize because I felt it. I felt it in me. And once I did it, I didn't feel better. I didn't feel worse. But I didn't know where else to go. There was nowhere else to go. I mean, literally now there is nowhere else to go. I'm in the middle of nowhere, and I don't know exactly what to do. But that's good. It's fun. It's fun being in the middle of nowhere because not many people can be there and enjoy it. Defense with nuclear weapons is always used in America. Americans have never faced first-hand consequences of nuclear war. It could rationalize proposed use of weapons. That's what we're as a necessary evil, so to speak. Necessary evil. Great line right here. The Japanese have no such luxury. That's the thing about nuclear weapons and all this other stuff, defense with nuclear weapons and such, is that we can accept that there's a necessary evil, especially if you keep on voting for the evil. And that's a big fact right there. Until you step away from what you're used to, I guess you could say. Because in a lot of ways, what you're used to is usually something not good. As with sin, as with everything, as with human condition, now, living in a society, human condition, is different from cavemen. That's the difference, is that most people think, well, we can't fall back into that kind of thing. Why not? The cavemen survived. Why are we here? Because the cavemen survived back then. They must have done something good, because they couldn't have lasted that long if truly we're looking back at it and saying, ugly. They must have done something to be able to survive that long, to create us off their lifestyle and way they lived. They survived. It means that they truly did survive. It wasn't like it was a one-sided thing where, cavemen are dead now. They didn't survive. No one's ever said that. But we always look back at them as if, ugly, untrusting. Yes, of course. Horrible thing to actually have rights by yourself, to have your own territory, to have to defend yourself. And what a horrible thing that is, Don't worry about defending yourself now. Somebody else will do it for you. Even if you can defend yourself, better to give away that power to somebody else. And I think that's what really we rationalize. It's just like when we rationalize proposed use of weapons as a necessary evil, it's the same thing to our personal lives right there. We're basically justifying ourselves being controlled. Basically put in shackles again. Right there. We're accepting that kind of thought and rationalization to just say, yeah, I gotta be in those because I don't know if I can take any responsibility for what I need to truly love or defend. And I think that in a lot of ways is the punishment of our lives, that we're basically allowing ourselves to crown our own justifications, to say that we got it better, when in true fact it's that we got it better because we didn't get the ass end of things at times. We didn't get the ass end of what happened to the Japanese after World War II, especially putting in the Constitution and such that America did. But what is faced here is that the consequences of stuff doesn't happen to us in those ways. Other consequences do happen. A lot of times they're created, though, by public outcry, by what people are afraid of, by people just giving up their freedoms for security because they don't want to have security for themselves. They don't want to take the responsibility to put the first hand into what freedoms they truly can stand up for. they don't want to take that responsibility, so they give it away to somebody else to take that responsibility away, and to also take that freedom away, that right away. That's the thing about a lot of these things that are happening throughout the years, is that it never looks like it's actually for your own freedom to be preserved. It looks like it's a struggle for what is called protectionism, where you're protected completely, but you're the slave to that system. Because that's all you got at the end of the day. If you don't truly take permission to express your right, to have an idea of what your right is first, and you just give it away, you never had a right to begin with, and you never were your own character. You never did live up to your own personality. You allowed somebody else to define it, create it, tame it, whatever you want to call it. It could be the whip hand. It could be something worse than that. The whip hand sounds okay by now. What's happening now is not the whip hand. It's cognitive dissonance. It's the way we distance ourselves from everything outside of the realm of our cell phones. We just jump around. But the thing is, it's so funny because I do the same exact thing and I'm laughed at. But when you do it 24/7, you're not laughed at. You do it every second, and nobody even takes a grind of look at you. And neither do you, because you're on your cell phone texting somebody else, or waiting for a text, or just sitting there similarly trying to listen to music, trying to work on something, trying to play a little password thing. You're basically having your independence neutralized from you. But at the same time, your defense mechanism is now based on the dependence you have on somebody else. So you have to protect your freedoms by protecting somebody else's, not your own. You're preserving, a person or child can never be truly independent if demeaned or devalued for being dependent on family or others. The people who supposedly value their family or others have to show that they're valued and are not entrenched in a grip to be dependent, You value others, family, to show the relationship can be valued by independence growing or not. That's the thing about with parenting, and I think which is becoming a very awkward skill for most people in general, is that they can't love somebody without them being independent, without them truly understanding that you have to take your own steps. But at the end of the day, that doesn't matter. What matters is what you care about, what you love. If you truly love that person, the independence, everything else, that's a growing thing. Not everybody's going to grow up the same. And I think that's the thing. It doesn't matter how much similar things you've had. You're never going to change the kind of personality that's going to be shown there. Which is what a lot of people do. They kind of say that, well, this person should know how to be independent. They should know. They should understand it. I understood it when I was growing up. That's fine. That's great. You understood certain things that you wanted to understand. But if you think this is about this person rebelling, which I think a lot of people now assume now, they just love using the label of rebelling. They love using the two-way streets because they don't like the idea of somebody being dependent on them for the rest of their lives, even though that's the way they personally feel if they've had somebody there who truly loves them. Well, I can love somebody, but I don't need to feel like they do. I don't need to act like they do. I don't need to present myself the same way they do. And I think a lot of people do that just because they want you to. They want you to be exactly like them. And if you're not, they're going to devalue you. That's a devaluation of the kind of person you are. And that's what they're doing. That's what people are doing now, 100% every day almost. They devalue people by if they act like them or not. You don't act like me. You're not a good person. You're a bad guy. Terrorist. There you go. That's all you need. Just a nice label, and you basically cut out, you've shown what so-called infringement of freedom is. Yet, you can't infringe upon freedom if it's true freedom. There's no infringement on real freedom. Now, if you were in the struggle for freedom, then yeah, you can infringe upon that, but that means that you truly believe that we don't have rights, that we have privileges, that somebody else's wrongs makes us wrong, except if we do things right. That's the difference. That's what I think that really means, is that when you mess up, you won't be forgiven. Because you should already know from everybody that's been doing these mistakes for years. Not every mistake leads to a wrong place, though. Because one person's mistake may be another person's relationship. One person's demise in a mistake, one person's death, does not mean that another person is going to suffer death from it. And it's the same reason why a lot of people manipulate situations to get their way. To try to sway you to believe that you're going to go through the same thing as someone on Maury did, or someone on Steve Wilkos did. You're going to go through the exact same thing. But that's not necessarily true. In fact, that's not even true at all. If those stories, if everything supposedly of value through those means were 100% done that way, we would see it 100% every single day. There wouldn't be one person who couldn't be experiencing that, if that were the case. There wouldn't be one person. But there is more than one person that's not experiencing that. I'm talking to people every day, and I'm not hearing Maury or Steve Wilkos from them. I'm hearing kind of a normal, everyday life. And I think that's what really devalues the kind of things that we see. Is that we value things based on the perceptions of what others have brought to us, of what we see in every day. Based on those perceptions, we look at this other person and say, hey, you're going to do the exact same thing. How do you know that? I haven't done the exact same thing before. Why would I start doing it now? You know, that's at the same time where people say with me that I haven't done anything in my lifetime. Doesn't mean I can't do anything. If you don't want me to, then you're showing why you don't want me to. Because your attitude is proving that by being upset that I haven't done anything, by acting like, well, you should have done something by now. Right there, there's that's the answer right there, is that you're basically saying, hey, you know, you should know how to deal with this, Marcello. But in true reality, why should I? Would it benefit me at all? Would I need to? And that's why I think that being truly independent, is not the only value a person should have. And I think a lot of people do that now, where they're like, oh, this my kid's dependent on me. My kid's independent. Either way, they're going to cry. Either way, the parent's going to cry. Oh, they're always here. Oh, they're never here. And that's the identity. Pick one. Pick one. And that's the thing about all these things, is that people act like they care about their kids until they're gone, or they're always there. Oh, complain, complain, complain. I don't. I'm just telling you that you need to stop. Pick an answer. Because guess what? It's 0 or a million. And to be honest, it is 0 or a million. If you wouldn't want it to be 100%, then you shouldn't start in the first place. Making mistakes, the misfortune of having kids when you don't want them, is different. But don't take advantage of what you felt to take advantage of your own kids and see how they feel. And change how they feel. Which is what most parents do now. They take advantage of their kids and try to say, oh, you weren't somebody I wanted. What a lovely mom right there. So nice. So nice to say that kind of stuff, Sorry. And it kind of goes back to like original sin, cautioning through Adam and Eve, I guess you could say, or saving themselves as a group uniting. It does advocate the status quo, accept mistakes. And like I said, staying the course through progress does not secure the future taken. Things are, not. It does not secure the future when things are successful. Like, real life does not demand difficult choices. It demands taking responsibility outside of your inside problems to be able to stand up for what your character is and has become, to take action as. Meaning that when you do something, and when you just say, I need to fix myself first, then that's all you really want to do. You never wanted to take the responsibility for what you did outside of yourself. And I think that's what really the cautioning tale of Adam and Eve, I guess you could say, is that you're basically advocating the status quo, accept mistakes, You're staying the course through the progress. And that's where a lot of people say, I'm staying the course. I get away from those people, because that means they're not going to take responsibility for anything. they're just going to stay the course. I don't need your course. I need you to take a course in taking responsibility. Because if you don't want to take responsibility for the kind of, bad things you do, it's going to come back at you. That's why a lot of systems have failed in the past on their own. Because people didn't want to take responsibility. And it sure wasn't the communists. They took responsibility. A lot of people who are supposedly bad to our country now, through history, the realm of any other system, I guess you could say, they actually took responsibility for being that evil. Do we? Do we as inherently as saying that, well, those things aren't necessarily true, that we did that with other countries? Well, yeah, it's because it's in secret, In the Middle East, they kill people in the streets. Here, they kill people in secret. People disappear all the time. And that's the thing about it. The difference is, if we're in secret, everything's fine. Ignorance is bliss, baby. But it doesn't mean bad things aren't happening every single second. Because they are. We took Nazi scientists and brought them to our own labs, in fact. You got it right there, So, to say that we have a kind of meaning to be well, that's not necessarily true, Just because we try to defile and discredit other people's notions of what things should be, doesn't make us better. Of course, it can, it can, and I think it's a robust thing for us to think we're better. But I think also that that's wherein lies the problem, is that we try to establish that we're better just because we judge those people that are doing wrongs. What does it matter? Anybody can judge them. It doesn't make you a better person just because you're judging somebody. But I think a lot of people like that now. I think that's why it's so easy to be like a sarcastic or a cynical person nowadays. You get acceptance from everybody. Woo! Everybody loves you, baby! Because you're taking advantage and, being critical of everybody. Woo! Damn! And that's all you need to do. To get people behind you, just be sarcastic, cynical, The Daily Show, anything you got. I'm not putting down Jon Stewart only. There's a ton of people I could put down. Bill Maher. Want me to go deeper now? Even Alex Jones. Even people on the regular news. Steve Edwards. Fox 11 News. Whatever you want to call it. I could bring up every single form of media outlet that's been brought up in this mental state. The kind of crisp things that don't go away. I don't mind Alex Jones. At least Alex Jones still can be promoted in the same way as everybody else can. All these other people have lifelines for status quos that are grown up the nose. They don't stop. Sometimes they're right. A lot of times they're wrong. But it's mostly because of their sarcasm and cynicism that keeps on going on and on and on. We get it. You don't like people. And I think that's the identity that most people say, well, we can't do anything about anything. Well, why don't you like people? Because they don't do anything about this stuff. Okay, what do you plan to do? Nothing. Oh, I get it. So you don't like people, but you're not about to change until other people change. But the reason why other people aren't changing is because you're not changing, and you are the other people. There's no difference. If all of you don't change, none of you will change. Then nobody will change. Nobody will ever change, because it took that step to go in that position, to feel that way. To make everybody conform to one identity, it took a lot of persistence. But it's the same reason to get out of it. It doesn't start with all of you, because all of you already did that. You did that hard work to get into it. The hard work to get out is one by one. Piece by piece, because it's not going to come all at once. I can give you the 100% bird's eye view of how everything went down in our history, and you still wouldn't believe it. You'd still defend it. Because people defend things senselessly now. They don't need to have actual evidence. They don't need to find out the how, the why. How is this possible? Why is this possible? They don't know what and who. They don't need to know all that stuff. All they need to know is this is how it went. And they give you a nice story, and you read it, and you agree with it. And that's where we are. That's where we've been. Another cautionary tale, really. Bad one, really. Doesn't have any value. As long as we don't have value, We don't need to have something of value to prove our points. We just need to have a story. That's all we need. And I think that's where it comes from, all this stuff about just having some kind of measure of what makes us think, what makes us better, and the great forces in the world, you know. It does come at a price of constructing the bad and being God about it. Saying, hey, this is good, this is bad. This is who can live and this is who can't live. And we're just at that. We're just at that, you know. Real life does not demand difficult choices. It demands taking responsibility. And it does, outside of your inside problems. And if you don't plan to do that, you're not going to get much. You're not. Take care. Love.